Morning everyone. This morning I'm out doing some photography with an old friend, a trusted companion on many photo shoots in the past. It's not a person. This morning I've decided to bring out my old full frame DSLR and lenses, and I'm really interested to see, after so long of not using it, how does it affect my photography experience. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you do and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. Good morning everybody, and thanks for joining me again. I'm just doing another local photo shoot this morning, and I've decided to make a little bit of a change. What I've done is I've packed my Nikon D810, the 16-35 f4 lens, the 70-200 f2.8 lens, and the 50mm prime lens. Now that is the gear that I was using for my landscape photography up until just over 18 months ago. And I was using the Canon M50 as a vlogging camera. Using all that heavy gear, or carrying heavy gear, hiking, and having a bad back was causing me some problems. So I decided I needed to make a change. I went for an ultralight video solution, the DJI Pocket 2, which is what I'm filming on right now. And I started using the Canon M50 as my main photography camera. When I did that, I kind of intended that I would use the M50 when I was hiking, exploring, doing longer walks, when weight was a significant concern and a significant factor. And for other photography trips, when I wasn't doing a lot of walking, when weight wasn't a big factor, I would still use the D810. But it didn't work out that way. I just started using the M50 all of the time. And over the last 18 months, the D810 has just sat, in a box in the office. And there's been a few times that I've thought about selling it, but I really did love that system. And in the back of my mind, there's always been that feeling that, one day I'm going to want to shoot with it again. Well, today is that day. There's actually some pretty big differences between the D810 that I've brought out today and the M50 that I've been using for the last year and a half, aside from the obvious size and weight differences. The D810 is a 36 megapixel full frame DSLR. It was launched in 2014, so it's already pretty much old technology. And at the time, when it was released, it was right at the top end of Nikon's camera offering. And with good lenses, which these lenses are, for several years it was one of the best landscape photography cameras on the market. The Canon M50 is a 1.6 crop sensor, 24.2 megapixels, and it's a mirrorless camera. It was released in 2018, so it's got the benefits of some technological improvements. But it and the lenses that I'm using with it are very much considered entry-level gear. So there's a huge difference between the two. I've come down onto this quiet little section of beach. There's some quite nice tones over that way actually, but I'm shooting in the opposite direction just because that way there's a composition for me to play with. I've got the camera out, got the 16-35 lens on, 35mm, got a big rock in kind of the bottom left-hand side of the scene. We've got the beach coming in on the right side with some waves, little waves coming in. And over in the background we've got Isleta del Bagnes. I'm running a 2-minute exposure. It does actually feel quite nice to be using this camera again. You get it out of the bag and it kind of feels solid and like it means business. The controls on the camera, the buttons and dials are very, very nice to use. They're spaced out, they're easy to get to. Although I must admit I'm having to remind myself where everything is because it's obviously very different to what I've been using. But there's no flip screen if I want to do awkward compositions. There's no touch screen. So setting up my focus points is a bit more complicated. I have to use the little toggle to do it. And of course there's no touch shutter release for bulb shooting. So I'm having to use a cable release because I'm doing a 2-minute exposure. But it's still nice to be using it. Okay, I've put the 70-200 lens on just to try and take advantage of that lovely orange glow, orange pinky glow out on the horizon where the sun's going to be coming up. That's pretty much the only area we've got any significant colour. 200mm, and I've put in a 3-stop. It's actually a hard-edged ND Grad, but I don't really need to darken the sky specifically. I just want to actually darken the whole scene. So what I really want is a 3-stop neutral density filter. I haven't actually got one that will fit on this, but if I put it in so it covers the whole frame, 3-stop hard-edged ND Grad works just as well, and it's letting me get a 20-second exposure. We have got pretty much completely clear skies, apart from that sort of layer of haze across the horizon out in the direction where the sun is coming up, which is out towards the Sierra Lada. And I've decided to come up onto the hilly area just overlooking where the little beach that I was on and do a sunrise photo using this statue here, which is the Reading Girl statue. It's one of 3 or 4 statues. I think there used to be 4 and one got stolen. Crazy what people will steal. And I'm setting up a composition basically with the Reading Girl kind of facing across the scene but out towards where the sun's going to be rising, and then the sun should be coming up sort of basically where she's looking almost, or where she would be looking if she wasn't reading a book. and it's just a case then of waiting for the sun to come up. There isn't really a perfect composition here, if I'm honest, because whichever way I shoot this, there's going to be some things overlapping. I can't get a clear shot of the statue unless I'm prepared to take the sunrise completely out of the equation. But we'll give it a go and see what happens. It's a shame we couldn't have had a day with a nice bit of cloud going on to create some interest, but we've had cloudless skies for what, week and a bit now. So it was either not come out and shoot or come out and shoot on a clear day, but it's still very nice, and as a chance to use this camera again, doesn't really matter. And I guess while we're waiting for the sun to come up, some thoughts on using this camera after a year and a half. And I should say, this is not, a technical evaluation, a technical comparison between the D810 and the M50. Technically, the images from the D810 are better. There's no question about it. It's a bigger sensor, more resolution, the lenses are much, much higher quality. And if you zoom into 100%, you can see the difference. If you zoom into 200%, you can definitely see the difference. But that's not how you view images. And I've got the equivalent of A2 sized prints from the M50 on my wall at home, and there's more than enough quality there for that, and much, much bigger prints if I wanted to. So it's not about whether or not the M50 is good enough. It's about just the experience of using this one again. Now we're actually going to get the sun coming up in a second, so I need to be getting ready to take a shot. So I am focus stacking this because full frame camera, much shallower depth of field than the crop sensor camera. Not worried about the blown highlights on the closer in shots, and because I'm a bit out of practice at using this camera, I am just playing it safe, and I am using back button autofocus. Got to say, there was a few things about using this camera that I'd kind of forgotten. The live view autofocus is okay when you've got good light and some really nice contrast, but earlier on, trying to use that for the shots when it was quite dark, it's really, really bad. If you want to use autofocus in low light, you've really got to use the viewfinder for that, or, which is what I used to do most of the time with this, you use manual focus. But that, of course, can be difficult to do in very low light conditions if you haven't got any bright lights to focus on. Also, for long exposures earlier on, the first long exposure I did, the first 2-minute exposure, I forgot, it's a DSLR, you have to block off the viewfinder to prevent light leak, and I forgot to do it because I've got out of the habit. So I actually did a second shot. I think the first shot may have been okay because I don't think there was too much ambient light getting in to cause a problem, but nevertheless something that you have to bear in mind using this. So this is not a question about technical superiority. The D810 and these high quality lenses is going to produce technically superior images to the M50 and the little M series lenses. There's no question about that. But as I said, for the vast majority of applications, it doesn't matter. Where it might play a part is if you want to print, or if you want to enlarge images a significant amount. So if I wanted to take a very small crop of an image and then enlarge it using something like Gigapixel or even Photoshop, you can expand by a much higher percentage using files from the D810 and these lenses than you could do from the M50, and I know because I've played around with it and it's definitely true. So I guess the question is, given that the M50 does everything that I really need it to do, and it's much lighter and easier to carry around, is there any point in me keeping the D810 and taking it out sometimes? And the short answer is, well, yes. It's a damn good camera, and I actually really enjoyed shooting with it. And actually, although it's got some sort of complexities to the way that you use it, in some ways that almost adds to the experience. You know, like the fact that you have to think a bit harder perhaps about focusing, both because of the you know, perhaps not great autofocus in live view, but also because of the depth of field being shallower. Plus the fact that I could, if I wanted to, you know, take a small crop of an image and increase the size of it fairly significantly and still have a usable image, means, you know, it opens up some additional possibilities. So what I might do for the future is go back to the way that I thought I was originally going to use this. When I'm hiking, exploring, doing longer walks, I'm going to take the lightweight gear. I'm not going to be hurting myself carrying this stuff around on long hikes. But if I'm only walking short distances, you know, driving somewhere and walking a little distance, or shooting close to home, or, you know, anything that's pretty easy where weight isn't going to be a factor, I might as well bring this stuff with me and make use of it. It's got to be a lot better than having it sitting, you know, gathering dust in the office at home. So expect to see this one coming out again occasionally in the future. I'm not quite sure what's coming up next week. It depends on how hot it is and how easy it is for me to get out, so you'll have to tune in to see. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, you know the routine. Give it a like, share, comments, all very much appreciated and really helpful. If you're new here and you've enjoyed this and you want to see more of what I get up to, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. And as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, so thank you very much. And until the next video, bye.